Hi, I'm Benjamin Light.
And I'm Marco Sparks.
And welcome to Bros Watch PLL 2. We are joined by a special guest today, writer and executive producer of Pretty Little Liars, Joseph Dougherty.
Good afternoon or good evening or good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, hello.
Thank you guys, and thanks for watching the show.
Oh yeah, we've had a lot of fun with it, so thank you for helping create it. Yeah, we've got some questions. We just watched Farewell, My Lovely, the penultimate episode of PLL, written and directed by you, and thought maybe we could get a little commentary, a little writer-director commentary on PLL and that episode in particular. The views expressed are not the views of Freeform and whatnot.
Yeah. The only opinions are. Where's my lawyer's number? It was here a minute ago. It's just that the only thing I can actually attest to are the things I actually did and the things I actually believed when I was writing them and doing them. So I really can't. So I was part of the show, but I don't speak for the show. How's that for being really wussy? What would you like to know?
Oh, so many things.
Just go down the list. That's what we're here for today.
Yeah. I guess one thing we've always been curious about is the creative process for the 5 years forward in general. I know that was kind of something you guys transitioned to in the middle of season 6. Like, how did that play out for you guys?
Well, it was in one way, it was the cost of success, that the show was going longer than I think we originally thought it was going to go. And we'd reached a point with the actors where it was just not credible to keep them to pretend they were in high school any longer. We had extended high school the way MASH extended the Korean War. And it was time for everyone's sake to move forward. Under normal circumstances, you probably would have done it at the beginning or end of a season, so you would have had more time. But we tended not to do things in a very normal way, and we were very anxious to get it started. We were very anxious to make the move because the shoulders were pinching a little bit on the stories. So the idea was to make the jump and start a new mystery. Find another that night, and move forward. I think at that point we knew how long we were going to go. At that point, I think we had been picked up for the 2 seasons, so we knew there were going to be 30 episodes. So we had the benefit of knowing, well, this is what we've got. Mm-hmm. So let's do this. But since these, I mean, one of the strangest things of the last year was the tendency to refer to the characters as girls. Mm-hmm. In the writer's room, because that's just what we got used to, and all of a sudden it sounded very condescending. But it was if we had been thinking about it, we would have done it between seasons, but we were not. So we took this very aggressive attack of changing the looks on the actors and tearing down some sets and building some new sets. Very often you'd shoot on a set and you'd walk off of it, and someone would come in and start taking it apart. Mm-hmm.
Like Spencer's old room.
Spencer's old room, which I know that Troian was a little upset. She did not get to say goodbye to the room. And a lot of we lost some of the school as well, but we also kind of took a little more possession of Stage 8. We put the new Radley up, but still having to keep some of the old Radley around.
So you mentioned the new that night. Like, what was the first pebble dropped in the water for the ripples? Like, how did you guys even begin to start?
I think it was at that point I'm going to get all my episode numbers screwed up, and I'm going to start sounding like John McCain at the debate. This one over here. I think that we knew we had to do another murder. I mean, that's a simplistic look at it, and maybe that's me simplifying what we're thinking about. Is, well, we need another mystery. We need to do something to somebody else, and we need to know what happened. And Charlotte, who had when last seen on the roof of the Radley, which I think is the last time you see her in, what would that be? That would be 6:10.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Part of this, and this is, I don't want to step on the print the legend part, but Vanessa was on another show, and it was unclear to us what kind of access we were going to have to her. And since she had this great multiple flashback epiphany in 610, we thought this was an opportunity that she would be the best candidate. She knew a lot of dark secrets, so there might be some people who wouldn't want to keep her around that town. And the idea was then, yes, let's. And then it was fairly finite in the construction. It was like, well, we'll do this. We'll, I wrote 11, so I said, let me do some stuff where we have a little more control about what the mystery elements were. I mean, there was a period there for the first 3 or 4 years of the show that basically whenever we came back into the writing room, the first day would be people looking at me pathetically as I tried to write a timeline for what happened in the backyard. I mean, I said, well, let's at least start now. We'll know now because we'll start fresh and we'll know exactly who did what and when. But instead let's say, fine, that's why one of the things I like about 11 is that basically it's thought out in a slightly different way than the first mystery is, in that, okay, fine, I know I've got her, I know I'm going to kill her, I know I have to make sure I can't account for some people, and I know I need to leave some loose ends, such as the murder weapon and the cause of death and things like that.
You had no day 57 of November to deal with at that point.
Oh, please. I've been watching. How come the later it gets in the year, the shorter Lucy's clothing got?
Yeah.
We were into, you can't go with a calendar on us. But the whole idea was we knew we had 30 episodes, and we figured that last season and a half would play pretty tight. And I think it does. I think it's supposed to be somewhere between Labor Day and Election Day's in there. But I tried to say it was a special election in the summer. But I mean, you try the best you can. But it's a television show.
I was gonna say, it just occurred to me that it could very well be another long November with that Election Day, because there's like a 2-week time limit at one point at the end of season 6, and then I don't even know how long season 7 takes place.
Well, you got the whole Victory Cruise too.
The Victory Cruise,
the Victory Cruise, and going away on the Victory Cruise. Since I was, of course, now we do have precedent for basically you win an election and then you go golfing. So maybe that now makes sense. But actually, it's actually when we cycle around, I realize I've kind of I've now got a theory about the corruption level of Rosewood politics, which kind of is partially my unified field theory for justifying things that otherwise might not make very much sense. But at least, a lot of this, I mean, one of the cautionary things I was saying when we started is that you're going to hear a lot of the rationales I used, which were not necessarily rationales used by other writers.
Just curious about your initial mystery there in 611. Did you know at the time that Mona was the killer?
I had a pretty strong feeling about it. And I think there were some other things discussed, but I kind of kept my counsel quiet. It just, any way you turned it, it kind of made sense that it was Mona. And I think when I look at 611, and I think if you look at her in 611, you should have a pretty good idea. You don't quite know what happens, but you know something happened. And then I said this in the room to the other writers. I said, well, I tell you what, let's make it definitive that it's her. Let's give her an alibi, because that's the inverted Agatha Christie rule, which is basically anybody who couldn't have done it did it. So that's where the two crows and the phone call and some missing time for Mona showed up.
So can we jump into the two crows real quick? Because
sure.
I have so many
delightful
questions.
Place. It's the only time you ever see it open.
Yeah, it seems certainly lively.
It hasn't. They're hoping not to become too hip.
But they've got that great stationery. They got the great branding. Time for Pie. Who came up with Time for Pie, and where did the Two Crows get its name?
Okay, Time for Pie is actually the slogan of the 4 and 20 restaurants out here in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And the Two Crows, that's a little nod to Norman Buckley, who told me a story once about where he lived and where he lived with his partner David, that they were often visited by two very particular crows. And both Norman and David came to equate those two birds as I don't know. Well, crows are pretty big in Native American mythology as well. They saw them as some kind of spiritual animals. I don't want to over fussy it, but it was just something Norman would sometimes come in and say, I saw the two crows today. And there were two crows outside my house. So when it came time to name it, I just said, gee, I wonder if this will clear. So I went with Two Crows, and apparently Norman never noticed. I mentioned it to him the other night, and it's the first he realized that's what I'd done, which was kind of nice. Because as you know, the whole point of television entertainment is just to send personal messages to your friends.
It definitely feels very Rosewood, yeah, Two Crows. I think what Marco really wanted to ask about the Two Crows Diner is how far away is it from the center of town in Rosewood?
Okay. It is exactly far enough away that you could go to the ladies' room, take the tunnel, go to the church, play the scene with Charlotte, witness her death, and then throw her out the window, and then get back without anyone noticing.
Or just making a cutesy comment to your waitress about, oh, it's just my IBS.
Yeah, or like, boy, I mean, didn't have a quarter, I couldn't get in. That lock was really tricky, but it's like the thing with the passageway under there, and I think Brian and I talked about this a lot. I know we brought it up in the room at some point, but we never addressed it. It's somewhere along the line. It was either me looking at Brian or Brian looking at me and saying, well, there has to be just a rat warrant of tunnels under this town. Because there's absolutely no way you can explain all the stuff unless you accept the fact that this is in place.
That could tie into the political corruption and, perhaps the secret society and the mayor and all that, I suppose.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I kind of backed into. Here's the thing: is I think that the basic tunnel structure under there, and it's fairly sophisticated, dates back to the 30s and dates back to Prohibition.
Oh,
okay,
and dates back to some other corruption too. So that, I mean, we've hinted on this. I mean, it's funny. When I was moving it around in my head before we talked, I said, well, I think of the underground structure as a transportation system. And Marlene was much more interested in there being actual kind of like subterranean things like the bunker
Okay.
and the dollhouse. But here, we can back into this or we can talk about this now. But my sense of corruption of the town actually just appeared when I started to really, I've always knew that Radley was tremendously corrupt. And I would get into this sometimes with Janel, and I really never got the other writers to come completely on board with me. But I never thought Radley was a legitimate hospital. I thought, and I know I think in the books it's a 19th century operation, and we kind of made some 19th century noises about it. But I noticed the other day when I saw the prop piece that it says founded in 1931. I think that place was totally crooked from the get-go.
Okay.
That it was never a legitimate hospital. It was a place where rich people put inconvenient family members.
Kind of like a Victorian era wellness place.
That would, I mean, that if there was a drunk, if there was a bastard, if there was a gay kid, if there was a gender nonconforming kid, it's just a checklist of people who've ended up going to Radley. Was that you could write a check and they take care of it for you. I don't know, and the reason it's kind of bad, I don't know how you explain how badly run it was otherwise. And that people would come and go, that there would be all these things going on, that they would lose track of patients, that they would lose track of of people and responsibility that they would cover it up. And so in my mind, it was always never a legitimate place. And it's interesting. Janel was the one who kind of gave me pushback on it because of, and I'm not quite sure why. So nobody really came on board with me. But if you look, I've never treated it like a real place.
Okay.
And when the thing finally started to fall apart, and there was a corporate takeover,
Mm-hmm.
you notice as soon as that company got in there and opened the books, they got rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they just buried it.
And I think that corrupt industry was at the core of the corruption of Rosewood itself, because the only way you can explain how incompetent that town is that it's corrupt. How do you misplace bodies? How do you misidentify corpses? How do you bungle so many investigations? How do you let so many people walk away from you? And I remind people every time Tanner comes back that she's coming back because she's not Rosewood PD. She was always identified as a special investigator from the Attorney General's office from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. The state knew there was something. Yeah, she was. I mean, it got a little muddy after a while, but she was always the person who was sent in there to ostensibly find out what the hell's going on, and didn't trust anyone there. Rightly so. And I think it's like when and then Judge Khan and how babies get exchanged. And it's like, wow, this whole place is just, it's the tunnels just become symbolic of the corruption the whole place is riddled with.
You can't see my face, but I'm fucking riveted.
So I don't know how much of this is actually putting things together afterwards, or the fact that we built this stuff as we were going along.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess a little thinking about having this conversation, and a little thinking about how the show is coming to an end, and what we had built, and what we had improvised, and what parts of that improvisation actually became solid that we could lean on. But I ended up with like two big things, which is basically says it was always the girls against the town.
Mm-hmm.
And that at the core of the girls against the town was Allie against her own family.
I'm kind of amazed that we never met the mayor,
It's weird. I think that's I guess they must be very good. Because I got to tell you, I always knew Radley was corrupt, and it took me a long time to realize, oh, wait a minute, it must be the town. It must be Judge Khan, who we never saw. It must be the whole place. The whole place must have been some kind of, some kind of crime thing in the 30s. I didn't know. I didn't know if there was a lot of organized crime in Pennsylvania. A lot of Russian mob in Rosewood. We know that.
I'm just fascinated because you've got, on one hand, I'm picturing like this place doing like hysteria experiments or whatever once upon a time. But then I'm just thinking about everything you're saying about the mayor. Like, I just want to say the mayor's probably the villain of season 8 of PLL or whatever. But like Spencer interned in his office in the pilot we hear about. So it's like it's potentially all there from the beginning had you gone that direction.
It is, but it's like it's God knows what would happen if we had. But I mean, I never noticed it, and part of it is just a practical thing. It's when things get that wonky. I gave it to Roman Mafia. She says homicide investigations tend to get less complicated as you work them.
Mm-hmm.
If they start getting more complicated, somebody's doing something. Now the problem with Tanner is that she still thought of that town, until the last time I wrote for her, she still thought of that town as being a normal town and this being a quasi-normal crime.
Mm-hmm.
But she came around.
Speaking of Tanner, she initially appeared along with Detective Holbrook.
Yes.
He seemed to, I don't know, perhaps go native in Rosewood. What happened to him?
Holbrook is Holbrook represents to me one of the places where if I had, I'll finish one of these sentences. If I had gotten my way on everything that I resisted doing on the show, we would have been gone so fast it wouldn't be funny. Because everything I resisted was something big and bold and very odd that actually extended the life of the show. Things like the Holbrook, things like Holbrook, things like Ezra knowing everything about Ali and Arya before he sat down in the bar in the pilot. Where every time we went back and modified a backstory in order to have something to write, it always gave me the whim-whams. But it was a strange experience. Sometimes it would bother you, and then it would bother you less, and then you just try and figure out how to write it in a way that you could go down to the stage and no one would throw paper cups at you. It's a terrible problem we have. Maybe that's true. Maybe you do. If you think you understand Rosewood will win. I guess that's maybe part of the Stephen King of it. That you undervalue, you overestimate yourself. There's a throwaway line in Robert Wise's The Haunting. Someone says, there are rules there are rules in the supernatural, and somebody says, what are they? And I say, well, you won't know what they are till you break them. And which is followed very closely by a closed mind is no defense against the supernatural. You're likely to have that door pulled off its hinges. A great script that movie's got. So I don't know. Maybe it's the whole town. Maybe it's just bad. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it's H.P. Lovecraft. Maybe there's a meteor under there somewhere. It's the only thing we didn't say.
Yeah, just a literal hellmouth.
The same people who built Hill House clearly built the Radley.
Well, that was the beauty of the Radley, and was that I don't think any of us knew what the Radley would become, and like so many aspects of the show, things happened that exerted a gravity on us that we did not consciously do it. But it became conscious after a while, but initially the fact that people were commenting on how everything leads back to the Radley. It became a litany at one point, and everything did. And even when it stopped being the Radley, it was still the Radley. I was thinking back, someone was asking me about the stuff they find downstairs in season 6, the other tunnels and the false walls.
Oh yeah.
And they said, well, what's your justification for that? And I said, well, they moved the headstones, but they didn't move the bodies. They just cover up their mistakes. They just covered up their mistakes, and they just lied and lied and lied, and they never talked about the terrible things they did to not just Charlotte, but to probably everybody else who's in there. Yeah.
I'm picturing these like secret society meetings with like Judge Khan and Peter Hastings and others, the mayor, and like black robes with like antler masks on or something.
Pig masks.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't. My tendency is to embrace a more banal version of evil. So I think they just kind of like got together, and
togas and whipping each other.
Yeah, again, my image of evil is much more sinister than yours.
Okay,
you can't pick them out. It's like, no, it's that nice guy over there with some of Byron's really good scotch.
Yeah, cigars and scotch.
So it's like, we are, it's that. I see them more. I see it more like the Gilded Age. I see it more like, the ladies will leave now, and we'll have cigars and discuss the fate of these people and how much money are we making and how do we keep it.
Well, so much of that just makes me think about how great this show is. But like Tanner, who I love from the moment of, is there a lot of Russian mafia activity? But the speech you're talking about, if you don't love Tanner by the point that she points out to typical Rosewood male Byron Montgomery, that murder investigations should get less complicated. He is the perfect example, a perfect guy to be on the other half of that conversation, because everything in this system benefits him. Why would he ever question any of this?
And she is actually, the speech before that is like even worse in terms of that, where she basically says, I am appalled at the lack of curiosity. Yeah. and if you're in power, you don't have curiosity. You don't want people to think. So again, it's like her. We playfully, I think we all have thought of her a little bit as Columbo, but I don't mean that to minimize the character, because if you look at what Levinson and Link were doing with that character. It's those are not this. Yes, they are Ellery Queen puzzles, but they are almost all the most successful Columbo episodes are tremendous class warfare plays. It is somebody who think it is entitlement. It is entitlement against drudgery, and Levinson and Link. I think they've said that they had a little Dostoevsky in mind when they wrote it, but that's why it's a great attitude. I'm not going to be fooled. I know who you are. I know you want to protect power. I think she came in there and thought, well, this is just these girls are just the next generation of this town's power structure. And if I don't do anything about it,
only we who guard the mystery shall be unhappy.
Yeah. I mean, and she knows, and they know she knows. She sits down across from Emily and says, when you weren't here, nothing happened.
Yeah. He came back, lots of murder.
But when you all came back, isn't that interesting? Which is the true kind of Peter Faulkner. Don't you find that interesting?
I wish she had her own show.
Oh, she's just glorious. I'm so glad we got her back for the end of it.
She was perfect to cap it, I think.
I went, the night shoot with the bulldozer, and after we shot it, I hadn't said too much about it beforehand, but I went up to her standing by the bulldozer, and I said, "I thought you deserved an entrance." She said, "Thank you."
Speaking of Tanner, I have just minor nitpicky questions. Does Tanner know that Spencer is Mary Drake's daughter?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that's that badly constricted piece of information now.
Okay. Wasn't sure if Marco kept that to himself or not.
No, I think she knows everything. There's it's not a line that's missing. It's a line I changed at the end when Spencer asks Tanner, "Do you think Mary Drake killed Dunhill?" And Tanner says, "What I believe and what I can prove are two different things." The original line was, I can't remember it now because I changed it very early on. Was that Tanner indicates that she had a very long talk with Mary Drake, and the last line of the speech was, "She told me a lot of things. Not everything she told me is either in her statement or in my report." And Marlene was afraid that that opened up more things than it closed off. So, and I agreed, but at the same time, I was concerned that you wouldn't understand why Tanner had decided that it was time to end this, and this was how I could end this, and I will give these girls this break. I know what I am doing, and I want them to know what I'm doing, but
Officer Barry Maple needed to walk up to her and say, "Forget about it, Tanner. It's Rosewood."
Yeah, that's the only thing that's missing. Either that or like Tanner getting in her car, opening a bottle, just taking a slug and then driving off. Maybe she's on the same. I don't know. Maybe she's on this. Maybe she's actually following AD in the car. I don't know.
Maybe they run into each other.
It's interesting. Some people think it's a sunset. That's a sunrise.
Oh yeah. That seemed clear to me, at least. It was
because it's the longest night of all time.
It is the longest night of all time.
It starts at 4 a.m.
It's I know, but it's like, well, Charlie and I fairly early in the 7 process, when we were talking, when it was clear that I was going to do 19, he was going to do 18, and we talked, and Marlene agreed to this because I think it gave her the freedom that she felt she needed in order to do the finale. Is that Charlie and I said, well, 18 and 19 have to be hardwired together. And they have to take care of as much business as we can take care of. So that my feeling about 19 now is basically it's a halftime show. I had to get out on the field, entertain people for a while, and then somehow manage to get everything off the field in time to resume play. So we wanted to hardwire the two of them together, and we wanted to clean up as much of the mystery as we possibly could. So it also if and the selling point for Marlene was I said if we clean up the mystery now, people are going to be so freaked out about what you're going to do next week.
Mm-hmm.
So we went ahead and we did it that way. I will tell you, if we had unlimited resources and unlimited time and unlimited money, you would have seen a scene that you didn't see at the end of 18.
Mm-hmm.
Because Charlie and I talked about this, and there was an original version of that where Arya gets locked out of the trunk, but she can't get in, and she drops the keys, and the cop doesn't show up right away. It's interesting because Charlie talks about, like, he actually worked on one of the reboots of Alfred Hitchcock Presents. We said we were going to do this Alfred Hitchcock Presents thing where basically poor Lucy has to crawl through the back of the car.
Oh, okay.
We were going to put her in the back,
like over the body.
Right. She'd have to go in the back of the car. She'd have to pull the back seat out, and she would have to crawl into the trunk to get the keys. And while she was in the trunk in the dark with the body, that's when the cop would knock on the hood and say, "Can I help? Can I help you?" And we just didn't have the time and resources to do it all the way. But it would have been extremely cool.
You can't travel far enough to get away from a necrophilia rap.
It's tough. It's tough.
Okay, I like that. I like the callback to the Halloween Train. This time Arya chooses essentially the climate of the body.
You gotta, please. I mean, the funny, the Halloween Train. When I handed in that script, the network, it actually was the network says, why are you talking so much? Why is every scene over this coffin? Why is everyone always stopping here and drinking sodas? And I said, just read the rest of the script. And they said, oh, okay, we're sorry.
Also, here's a DVD of Rope.
Here's a DVD of Rope. Well, again, that's like, Hitchcock was more in our DNA, I think, than in anything else.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's basically Frenzy with the trunk, right?
It's interesting. I mean, like what you're hitting on is something that these references and the homages sometimes. What's the difference between deliberate and conscious? I mean, we knew what we were doing, but I sometimes was surprised to see that we did make a particular reference. Mm-hmm. To me, if it's more Frenzy in there's a closer of the vodka bottle, mm-hmm. and that feels more like Frenzy. But again, it's like, it's not really. I don't know if you can call it a homage, because there's not a lot of people who remember Frenzy that well, or Rope for that matter. Mm-hmm. It's just that basically that kind of pictorial storytelling stuck in our minds and became this thing that somehow started to organically or inorganically happen. Mm-hmm. It happened all the time in what I'm sure is now rapidly becoming the infamous dream sequence of, and I do mean infamous. I got together with Larry and with E4 and electric and props and everybody who says, well, look, this is what we're going to do now. But I want to really do something in the camera that's really weird. And I said, I don't want to do an optical thing. So I'd love it when she comes in, if we could just kind of like totally screw the lighting and go non-realistic and go with a really startling color we haven't seen before. Mm-hmm. And Larry understood what I was saying. So so they made this decision and we tried it. And actually it was, our on-set prop guy came in and looked at the light change. He had not been there when we had rehearsed it. And he looked at the light change and he said, oh, that's Vertigo green. And I realized, yeah, actually it is. It's the green of the hotel room in the last act of Vertigo. I didn't ask for it. I don't know if Larry did it on purpose. That's the kind of thing he would do. Mm-hmm. But stuff like that crept in.
Interesting.
But we'll take credit for anything that looks good.
Well, I mean, won't go into it up here, of course, but like if you've ever watched Vertigo, like colors are a huge part of the storytelling of that. But it's the perfect time to subconsciously reference Vertigo when you have the bell tower, people being thrown to their death or not thrown to their death.
I mean, I don't even know how we ended up in the. I think Vertigo was the reason that we first went into the bell tower. And season 1?
Mm-hmm.
Is it season 1 that
Ian.
that Ian takes a fall? I mean, and is that the end of season? When do the girls come out and Ian's gone? Is that that must be the end of 1.
End of season 1, yeah.
End of season 1. But we kind of, we had the bell tower. Although I think we actually went through about 4 bell towers in the space of the show. I think. I know the first one was not the second one, and then it was just. But then we said, I think I better hold this set. But yeah, it's the bell tower. How could you not understand the bell tower, and how important this place is? This strange space where It's the other thing too, is when we set up the last shot of Mona's, when Mona tells everybody in that Lost Woods what actually happened in the bell tower, and we pull out through the bell tower.
Out through the window, yeah. I
mean, I said, I want to pull out through the window, but it wasn't until I saw it on a monitor I realized that the shot actually cants a little bit to one side. So it's like, you expose the space where Jimmy Stewart should have been standing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, no, I don't think he's going to notice it, but yeah, and again, it took me a long time to realize that the end of Vertigo is a happy ending. And that in a strange way, this is a happy ending too.
I was convinced that you were going to have a nun walk out with Mona and be like, I heard voices.
Couldn't quite. Oh, please. It was that sequence works at all is a great tribute to Bob who cut it. Production was very tight on that episode for a variety of reasons, being that we didn't have that many episodes left, so they actually knew how much money we had.
I had a question about the cutting of that. There's a shot that gets cut to, I think it's in the first flashback, where we're kind of pulling away and going down the stairs, watching Charlotte and Mona there. It really made it seem like perhaps there's another presence there. Was that intentional?
Which shot is that? You mean in the? Oh, I know the one you're talking about. Mm-hmm. Not intentionally.
Okay.
The one that is that why you came here, to give me flowers? Yeah, it's and the Lumicrane is moving, and it's just about to cover.
And then I think we cut to Caleb coming in the present day. Yeah.
No, that's a little later.
That's a little later.
Because that was tricky because production was so tight, and it was an awkward set, and literally I had Vanessa for a few hours.
Mm-hmm.
We were actually at that point 720 had started production on one stage, and I was on another stage trying to finish 719. And literally, Vanessa was going back and forth between us.
Okay, yeah, because I just remember watching in the first of the 2 flashbacks, it seemed like there could potentially be like another wrinkle yet to come, just with some of the ways it was edited and some of the stuff like you're not going to trick me again, that sort of thing.
Well, not going to trick me again is that actually warns you that what you saw isn't the whole story.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's why I wrote it that way. And it's like the thing I didn't have. You're not supposed to tell people what you didn't do, then they'll see it. I wish I had a little more time to shoot more of Hannah's Jeopardy.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That sequence is a masterpiece of editing. If it works at all, it's a masterpiece of editing.
I think it works, but it's more like of a comedic moment, at least to me, when like Mona just suddenly grabs her and tries to push her.
Yeah, I just I'm not. It functions.
Mm-hmm.
That's not quite how I conceived it. And I'm going to go around now to everybody's house and knock on their door and explain that, and somehow that'll make it better.
I just have to say, I appreciate that in that moment, as you're calling back to so many things that are worth calling back to. Again, Hannah the Hitchcock blonde gets mistaken for one of the other like 5 Hitchcock blondes on the show.
I think the other thing, I'm happy with the bell tower. I'm happy with all the stuff in the bell tower. I could have stayed there. I could have stayed there all day and shot a lot more, and they would have arrested me. But it was, God, Janel was great. Vanessa was great. So, and it says they're stunt doubles, but yeah, I'm happy with it. I've as I said, I've stayed away from the social media because I knew what I was doing and I knew why I was doing it, and I also knew it might very well be misunderstood, but I couldn't. It was a little late. There was a time when Marlene and I talked a lot about what Mona does up there, and I remember having a conversation with Marlene, who, my feeling was basically however she wanted to go with this is how we were going to go with this. And I said to Marlene, I says, this was out at Outline, I think. I said, if you look at this now, there is a way to do this where Mona does not intend to kill her. And Marlene understood that. And I'm glad she did. Because, look, after Mona throws Charlotte down on the ground, Charlotte could walk away. What is Mona going to do? She's had this little thing here and she's had her little speech. I've scared you as much as you scared me. But Charlotte's still a winner. All she has to do is get up and walk away. But in that moment, I think she doesn't think she gets another plan, which is basically, yes, but you know what? Mona's always going to be a danger to me. I'll be able to, I can throw Mona out this bell tower right now and people will believe anything I say.
Okay.
And I will really have won. Not only have I won the game, but I've won the story. So Charlotte's mistake is she tries to kill Mona. It doesn't work out.
Well, and it seemed to me, at least, that there was kind of a dichotomy presented between those two A's there, where one of them wasn't willing to go that far and one of them was. Was that like an intentional kind of morality division between them, or did it just kind of work out that way?
I mean, you know what? I don't know if it's intentional, but it's certainly the way it worked out. I mean, I don't know if you ask people if they would tell you that they think that Charlotte's intention was to kill her. I mean, really, why is she hitting her? Why is Charlotte? I mean, there was a discussion about the finale with everybody because we were in this kind of touchy area about what we were doing and in terms of like how bad is Charlotte, and I said, well, I can tell you how bad she is. And so I got together and I wrote this thing and I talked to Vanessa and I said to Vanessa, I said, she's not, I took that from you, I did that. And I said, just make it really small, just tell her what you've done to them and how you're going to do worse. One of my favorite things in there is basically, and I kind of like the fact that there's so much sucker set up where she keeps going over to the open door and pushing it wider open. And I think my two favorite Vanessa lines are in that scene, which is basically, God, how I hate this town. I suppose I'll have to do something about that now. And the fact that in the middle of killing someone, you stop to say they will never love you.
Yeah, she's definitely cruel.
That's not nice.
Well, she's fantastic in the scene. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And again, this is a woman who flew in to do these scenes, and quite literally, when I finished, unless I've got this backwards because it was a very long couple of days, I literally think I cut and they just grabbed her off the set to take her, put her on a plane back to New York.
Wow. Speaking of Charlotte, did have a little bit of question about that character and her pseudonym. Is Drake Jessica's maiden name?
Yes.
Okay.
As far as I know, it is. I think that's how that tracks.
So would it be reasonable to assume that Charlotte picked the name CC Drake because she knew that, and that was just a convenient pseudonym?
She must have. I mean, how could she? It's not. I don't know how you get to a coincidence like that.
Okay.
Feeling good. 2 for 2 here, folks.
Yeah. Now that does. But however, there's probably something lurking around somewhere in some episode where somebody who should have figured that out didn't figure it out. I mean, if anyone ever said, "Well, please, the De Laurentiis family is not only emotionally cruel and vindictive, but I think they also have very poor eyesight." in terms of like they don't notice things and they don't put two and two together. But that's, actually all the problems in the world are the De Laurentiis family, the way they treated their children.
Yeah, Ken, real son of a bitch.
Ken, who of course he's off somewhere.
Yeah, where is Ken?
He's part of the secret society, I'm sure.
Sure. No, you know something? Never got in it.
I was gonna say he's
they
gotta be
wouldn't
the most junior member, if he is.
Yeah, he was the guy who wanted to get in.
Peter Hastings vetoed.
Hastings wouldn't let him in.
So Hastings would be, for realsies, he'd be in that group, right?
Oh, totally.
I mean, he's in the Eyes Wide Shut club.
He'd be in there, but he'd be in there, but nobody would know he was there.
He's the Sydney. No, who's the guy I'm thinking of?
Sidney Pollack.
Sidney Pollack. Yeah, he's the Sidney Pollack.
Yeah. He could be the Sidney Lumet too, but I think it wouldn't make any sense in this context.
True. I everything you're saying about Charlotte's fascinating, just because one, she hates his town. She could do something about that. She and Tanner could really pull the lid off that conspiracy. But for two A's who love toying with their food before they kill it, I just love that she's like, no, Mona, you're not even worth toying with anymore.
No, this is like, I think her decision process is basically I can't count on, let me just throw her out the window.
I know one town's only big enough for one A.
I get full reign and she bucks up my story and I don't have to worry about her. I'm saying it's a win-win here for me. And if you think about it, it would have worked.
So we notice in Farewell My Lovely, we get another introduction of the wine bottle with a message in it. Does Mary Drake have to drink the whole bottle each time before she leaves a new message?
I don't think she has to. I just think she does. I think it's, I hadn't thought about that. I mean, I was just, again, it's one of those things like, I was so glad I did the wine bottle thing in 15 so that I didn't have to explain anything about how Spencer shows up someplace. All I had to do was show a wine bottle. Oh, thank God. But no, foolishly, it never occurred to me that you had to drink the wine. Maybe she set out glasses. And they were just like drinking it during the scene, and no one noticed the bottle.
It seems like she's seemingly always just right out there in the dark somewhere waiting.
She's right out. Maybe she knows where some of the tunnels are. I don't know.
A tunnel into the Hastings wine cellar.
There you go. They didn't even know they had a wine cellar.
Talk about a dark horse addition to like the PLL Wine Moms like book club. If Mary just showed up with a fresh bottle.
Yeah, and you did. Where'd this come from? Oh, that's all right. There's a note in the bottle. I don't think do we get a corkage fee or a message fee for this? But it was like, I mean, there you are. I mean, like, it's like we, I think one of the reasons that the show lasted 7 years is that we did have access to all this melodramatic material, but we knew exactly how hard to hit it. And that we could, I mean, I did not try. I mean, I know a couple of shows tried to copy us, but they just couldn't. Nobody's figured it out yet.
There's a secret sauce, yeah.
I think there's a secret sauce, and it may just very well be, there's a lot to be said for lightning in a bottle. I mean, I was thinking that it's, first of all, you got a network that wanted to do it. You got somebody with the brains to ask Marlene to come in and crack something, which I think 3 other writers failed to crack. By my count, I think there was at least one other pilot.
Oh, interesting.
But there was just tenacious executives at ABC Family who thought there was something there.
Like shot and produced or just written?
I don't know. I think there was a shot pilot.
Wow.
At the CW, but I don't know. I have heard stories of these pilots that there was a college version. Nobody understood what the core of the show was. And I think like I know any of this stuff. This is all my guesses. I think Freeform or ABC Family or whatever it was called that week, they went to Marlene because of Now and Again. Now and Then. Yeah, Now and Again. Because they realized that there was this core friendship. And they always stressed that to us. It made us crazy in the first year until we realized they were absolutely right. that they have to be friends, that this is that was the first wave of information that came back from social media. I wish my friends were like this.
Hmm.
I wish I had friends like this.
That's interesting because that's probably the biggest change from the books is that they're not really friends in the books.
No, you're right. And it's something that Marlene changed. And I mean, I kind of stopped reading. I read 4 or 5 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Then I felt we are diverged so far.
Right.
And we were mining, we were bringing in so many new characters. But again, it's like, here's a weird throwback. I don't know if we talked about this, but way back in the late 1850s during the Reconstruction era after the Civil War, when I worked on 30-something, we would get that kind of mail. I wish my friends were like this. I wish I had friends like this I could talk to.
Mhm.
I was like, oh, there's some lonely people out there. But I think that
now you have that proved by the internet.
Fortunately, thank goodness the internet's finally good.
Come to Brazil.
Oh, we'd love to. I mean, yeah. If you pay for the you pay the airfare, we'll come. They don't want the writers. They just want the ladies.
Yeah.
They want them actors. It's like Joe Gillis and people think the actors just make it up anyway.
All right, so we got to ask you about the infamous flash forward dream sequence there. I think Marlene mentioned in an interview she did recently that when you guys put that into 610, you didn't know where you're going with it. At what point did it become clear to you that the only way it was going to work was a dream sequence?
I am so glad that Marlene outed herself on that because I couldn't. It was making me crazy. I remember when she brought in the end of it, because it's the end of 610.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't the first draft of it I saw was huge. I mean, literally, I think it was in someone's house, and gun cases were ripped open, and the girls, and they were arming themselves and getting in cars and driving off.
Yes.
And
they posse up.
Yeah, they posse it up, and I'm saying, wow, what is this? And I think we had certain trepidations. I think it was Ron Long. I think I don't know if Marlene directed that herself. She must have, because Ron Lagomorcino directed the next one with me. It was the thing in the middle of the room that no one talked about.
Mm-hmm.
When are we going to deal with this? Because the sooner we deal with it, the sooner we can deal with it. And it's a can that got kicked down the road until there wasn't any more road.
Did you guys eventually have to draw lots to see who would deal with it?
I don't think so. I think I was not surprised when I ended up with it. I said, okay, somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to take this out. Let's see what we can do with it.
I mean, I think it's great.
Thank you. I mean, like Charlie loves it. I mean, I was really surprised. He said that's because and also there was originally a much bigger blackboard. I ran out of time. Again, I ran out of time. The shot was supposed to start on the other blackboard, and it was going to be all of these names that just from Hitchcock. Marion Crane was going to be up there, and everybody was going to be up there. As it is, we just ended up with Emma Thorwald, and then. But again, it's like I say to people without if you don't like it, you can ignore it. Really,
not too much of an impact. Yeah.
If you don't like it, then it's just Emily. It's just Emily waking up after getting gassed. It's just this, wow, And again, I probably there's a time I would not have put like a gas jet in the fireplace, but it's just kind of like, well, let's have some. Of course, there's a gas jet in the fireplace. Because my first production meeting was, they said, when was this built in? I said, well, it's not built in.
I think fans hear like most romantic season, and then they get that scene of these two affirming their love and how they're going to stick together through thick and thin, whatever happens next. But it's PLL, so of course you're going to pan over and there's gas hissing into the room.
I mean, and again, it's like, I mean, probably someone is saying, "Oh, he couldn't be nice to Emison," and like, he just couldn't be nice, could he? And I said, "Oh, please." And I love this shot too because it's strictly speaking, it's an unmotivated camera move, but it's kind of fun. And then when you rack focus, it racks through the grate first, and then you find the little spigot, and I thought that's nice too.
Well, that is a very typical PLL shot. You know, a lot of scenes kind of end that way with the camera just kind of drifts off somewhere else. That's kind of like the house style, but then it just keeps going, and it's like, oh, look, there's gas.
Well, that's it's like that's how it's like, it's, you know, you're supposed to, you know, one of the first rules is what's motivating the camera move, and there's really nothing motivating the camera move. So why are you doing that? Because you're going to go over to the gas spigot.
Also from Farewell, My Lovely, we had Ezra with perhaps one of his most memorable lines. I don't know.
He has a couple.
Yeah, he has a master's degree in American literature. He can do anything.
Yes, there's nothing he can't handle.
Is Ezra being sarcastic or serious there?
I think Ezra's being Ezra. Which is to say that basically, first of all, it's my tribute to everyone who studies American literature.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And from a practical standpoint, if you have a master's degree in American literature, that means you know a lot of stuff that's happened in a lot of stories, including somewhere in your knowledge how to get rid of a body in a trunk. I think he is being Ezra. I think he hasn't the slightest idea of what he's going to do when he gets out there, but he's in love with this woman, and he's going to let her decide how they're going to play this out. And don't ask me that question now. Ask me that question after we're in the car and I've had a chance to think about it. In the meantime, I have a master's degree in American literature. There's nothing I can't handle.
It's the fake it till you make it. Ezra throws out a classic, Ezra Bonmont, and then he has to go make it reality.
No, I mean, like, listen, Ian asked me if it was supposed to be funny. I said, no, it's just say it.
He plays it. He plays it so good. He's got this almost, it's not quite right, almost like Roger Moore-esque delivery at times, where it just straddles like insanity and like realism at the same time with charm. I mean, because like you should hate Ezra, you should, but at the same time, like Ian Harding is fantastic in this role.
It's like it's interesting. It's like he said, "How should I?" I said, "Just." And the other thing was, I remember saying, "Just finish the move, turn around, plant yourself, and then say it. Don't toss it. You mean it." And again, it's you kind of understand why she likes him. Oh, okay. I'll forget about all that other writing stuff you did.
That and the tackling her into a tree 5 minutes earlier.
I loved it, tackling into a tree. That was a major that actually. What do you think of tackling into a tree? Because actually, that shot shouldn't work, and I love the fact that it works.
It's very jarring.
It is jarring because it's a 180-degree cut, and I bemoaned it. I talked to Larry, I talked to Bob. I said, can is this so radical I can actually jump 180 degrees? And they said, sure, try it. And we could. Which again, and it's this beautiful little setup, which for like another, it's not a, and then 2 seconds later, Ezra walks into one of the finest propellers I've ever prepared, which is there's absolutely nothing connecting you to what happened with Dunhill. Mm-hmm. And Arya's saying his body's in the trunk of my car. And you cut back to Ezra and you wait a beat and then you start the music. And it's interesting, the studio note was, can you wait longer? Can we just see his big face hanging there, taking it in, and then start the music?
So Charlotte was, more revealed than ever before as the villain in this episode. Was there ever any consideration of kind of backpedaling on that, or kind of changing her circumstances after 610?
Well, I don't think so, because if you look at what goes on in the second half of season 6, when you look at the flashbacks, mm-hmm. It seems clear to me that she was always, that was a Hail Mary play on the roof. Mm-hmm. And that people who run, again, that's a corrupt hospital too, and I don't even know the name of it.
Welby. Yeah.
It's Welby. Yes, not very. I think yes, it is, and we named it after Marcus Welby, which is a terrible thing to do. But I think she was consistently bad. That was what I got. I mean, she was manipulating. She was doing all this stuff. The decision that it was Charlotte and who Charlotte was and what Charlotte's backstory was going to be was made in the dim, dark days beyond recall. And after the decision was made, certainly some things in society overtook us. But that didn't mean the storytelling instincts were wrong, or that we were wrong, and that we shouldn't tell the story we wanted to tell. There was no desire to step back. This is a weird thing to talk about in a lot of ways, because I know a lot of people. I don't quite know how to talk about this without either sounding dismissive or condescending, and I'm trying not to sound either one. But I know this is serious stuff, and in the context of this kind of entertainment, we must look like careless people, and I can assure you we were not careless when we did this. But we're just telling a story. And even that, I mean, I don't know. I doubt there's anything I could possibly say that could make the people who feel really bad feel better. But to that I say, please look at how Charlotte became Charlotte, which is look at how she was mistreated in her own family, and in the institutions that followed. And it's not, and Ezra's not wrong when he says the only thing that makes you different from her is that she can't forgive. Maybe that's, I don't, I mean, we had no idea where, we didn't know where the world was going. I think the thing that I don't even have the right to be offended to think that people would think that we would do something hurtful. It's but it's so weird. It's weird to talk about it in a way that's respectful to people who have real concerns. I don't think, and there was a tremendous amount of heat. But no, you know what? No, I'll tell you this. I was on a phone call and it was no, we're not, we don't want to back them. This is the story we're telling. And it took us 3 years to set it up. Now, I mean, like there's, we've changed other things along the way, but this was just something we were going to change. I don't know. Am I digging myself a hole or getting out of a hole? I can't tell at this point.
I think you're being respectful to the issues. I think it's an issue of representation in that with there not being more representation of trans people and the issues they face, Charlotte looms larger.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think you're right. There's definitely there's the patriarchy, there's the way men control women's bodies, there's Ken, whether he's her dad, her uncle, or her uncle daddy. He definitely, even he didn't get into the Illuminati, he definitely represents, their beliefs.
I blame it all on him. I mean, even in the flashbacks about that guy's looking to get that kid out of the house any way he can, and and you just see. I mean, I know. Here's one of the things. There's a line. There's a thread, rather, not a line that runs through Charlotte, which I think speaks to how hurt she was, and that is the three appearances of the three switches.
Oh, okay.
You see them, you see them out of context in the bunker, which he uses it on the liars. You see the old version of it in Bradley and realize this was used on her. And that's why she recreated it. And then they show up in the comic book.
Yeah.
Which means this was done to her as a very small child. Probably as some kind of aversion therapy.
Speaking of that comic book, and Arcturus, how did that come into play? Was that just the late edition, or was that something planned?
You know what? I know it grew. It grew directly out of discovering a connection between Charlotte and Lucas.
Okay.
I can't remember how we decided it was a comic book. But it just seemed like such a perfect thing to find, and to see their two names on it, and say it was just a way, instead of somebody saying, "Oh yeah, they knew each other," like let's see if we can. It's a kind of a Billy Wilder thing. It's like, what else can this do?
Mm-hmm.
What other information can we get about this? And they did this comic book together. And again, you see, I think there's a lot that's revelatory in there about Charlotte.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all, and it's interesting because you were just talking about the influences you guys have that you don't realize end up on screen, and then there's her working through her story through comic book. But yeah, I tell you how it became a comic book. You guys are like, look at Lucas's apartment, look at his teenage bedroom, look at this nerd's like life. Of course, it's a comic book.
Of course, it's a comic book. What is that a decision? I mean, God, this is what Hanna says when she opens the box. Oh, surprise, comic books.
One thing in our notes here, spaleb, Spencer and Caleb.
This is the conversation I've been waiting to have all my life.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, brother. What aspect of it are we talking about here?
I just want to know, how did this idea come about? Like all of it. Like I'm a big fan of it. I just wanted to get that off the table first. But just who walked in the room and said, "Let's do spaleb"?
I don't think it was that easy.
Okay.
Because the other unspoken rule is you don't take somebody else's boyfriend.
True.
And one of the things I want to talk about is how these relationships actually took on a gravitational force that was, in some cases, impossible for the writers to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
We talked a little bit about it because, again, it's like stories come from conflict, so you're going to have to throw a rock every once in a while. And it grew out of the 5-year jump. I was thinking about this the other day. Was really the spinoff we should have done was Caleb and Hanna in New York. That's the show I think people might have wanted to see, but it would have been very painful for them because we would have actually been talking about how this relationship was working or not working, which is why the views you get of it are as interesting as they are. And I kind of like them, and I'm really happy about that scene between the two of them in the alley with the cat and that stuff. I think there was clearly chemistry between the actors. If you look at that scene, oh God. When they first worked together on Maya's computer, that there's just a great playfulness and effortlessness in the way the two actors are talking to each other. That it was clear. Wow, they seem to really like it. They're talking about sweaters. See, was it? And it was like, and then I think again, I'm probably making this sound much more deliberate than it was because it's in retrospect, but it was like, there's some chemistry here, let's see what we get. And then it's things like, well, they broke up, and we know that Spencer broke up with Toby, whatever that was about, and she was on her own. And then the chance to do the scene in the hotel room in Barcelona, which was just a joy to write for both of them. What do you want to do? Yeah, we could skip Casablanca, and then somebody starts yelling for their dog in the street, and you decide to go to dinner instead. From a pragmatic sort of place of view, it ended up being sexier than we thought it was going to be, but it also ended up being having some massively good potential from a story standpoint, because of those three actors, because of the way they came at that material. When we were breaking, I don't remember the numbers of these darn things anymore. The one that my
704.
Is that Caleb at the door?
Yeah.
Yeah. When we were breaking that, and Maya was going off to write that, I remember talking to Rohan and says, "Oh God, I envy you writing that scene. That is, you are." And she knocked that scene out of the park. And then they came in and they did it, and it's just. Okay, it's the show is what the show is, but you still want to do the best you can do, and you still want to give the actors something let them be honest, so they're not embarrassed to be standing there. And just, I thought, Maya's script for that, I think we all talked about it. It was like, it was not writer envy, but we all wished we had a chance to write that scene. She did a I mean, I said, that's just, and then I saw the cut. I said, holy cats, this is great stuff. And it was a synergy. Do you remember who directed the episode? Was it Melanie Mayron or someone?
I can check.
But
Hit and run.
Is perfect, especially since you're just coming out of the dead body that they've buried on the side of the road, and it just sidelines you of how beautiful these three are.
But I mean, I see that's one of the things that gave us an advantage that other, shall we say, melodramas don't have, is that we always had this armature of suspense and mystery and danger. We had beautiful clothes and nice looking people and witticisms and glasses of wine and kisses and making out. But oh my God, the cops are coming. I mean, there's a reason why this stuff works.
Yeah, so that was Michael Goy directed that episode.
Michael Goy, okay, yeah, he's a very pictorial director. Yeah.
So, but was there ever any chance that you'd get to 719 and Hanna and Caleb wouldn't be back together?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. I mean, this kind of goes to something. We can start talking about relationships now. It's like basically
gravity you could not escape from.
Yeah, but look at it, and it's true. And I was thinking about this the other day, and I think that's probably the real lesson of Ravenswood, in that we did not anticipate what would happen if we separated one of these relationships. I think that the final outcome on Ravenswood would have been entirely different if it had been a completely freestanding series from the producers of.
I can remember seeing stuff online where people were like, I'm not going to watch that show, and I would encourage everyone else not to watch the show because then Hanna and Caleb will get back together. It was like a goal, and a movement that people had.
Well, it worked. I mean, I think it's at the time if we had said no, let's not spin somebody off. Let's just say let's just do a ghost story that's from these producers. I think and if only we'd been able to make it in Los Angeles, because it was just we were just spread so it was like the March on Moscow. Our supply lines were stretched too thin between Los Angeles and New Orleans.
Right.
But I really, boy, you know what? If we had just done that as a freestanding show,
or sent like Jason.
I don't even want to do that, because there was one of the great debates is, well, wait a minute. So this is a supernatural world here, but it's not a supernatural world here.
Right.
It's supernatural when you get the filter, the desaturation.
Yeah, it's like, do we really want to? Why don't we just do two different? It was interesting, and many things were learned, and Tyler Blackburn was just a soldier. He deserves every battle ribbon we can give him for going down there and showing up and making it happen. And this is why I'll tell you the worst thing about Ravenswood. It made Tyler unavailable for the black and white episode.
Oh yeah. Also, they stole his hair.
Yeah.
They stole his hair?
He came back with short hair. It's never quite the same.
Well, hair is very potent.
He fell in love with a ghost who had the same haircut as him, and just afterwards,
you have to give the ghost a haircut.
What was in your mind if Caleb had been around for the shadow play?
I'm not 100% sure. Okay. I was thinking about it. I thought I'd have to do something counter. I'd have to do something like really opposite. So I think he'd have to be kind of not cool.
Oh, okay.
He would have to be the not cool character.
Yeah, like Scotch tape on the glasses.
Close. I would have put glasses on. He would have been like the police tech.
Oh, okay.
Something like that. But I know he wished he could have been in it, and I wish that everyone else, But yeah, that's a big regret.
Here's the thing, Tyler. Every single day of your life, you get to be Alan Ladd. I need you to be Jerry Lewis for 1 week.
or Elijah Cook Jr.
Yeah, there you go. The gun mall.
Yeah, you got to be like, yeah. You got to be like, well, I don't know. You want me to wait here? No, go over there.
Toby just slapping him around.
Yeah, he gets yeah. You get to be Clifton Webb.
Oh, I'm here for that.
See, there you go. I could have put him in Clifton Webb's bathtub.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And had Toby come in and do the beginning of Laura.
You would never have to buy yourself a drink again.
I guess I should just write the scene now.
Yeah.
Kindle Worlds, yeah.
Right down to hand me my towel.
One thing we wanted to ask you about in this latest season, in this half season in particular, things got very high tech with A or AD, with the game, with the kind of Avataria appearance, the weird little black hoodie AR thing. How did that all come about?
I think part of it kind of came about naturally. The reason we ended up with the little black hoodie on the game board and the augmented reality, that's mostly Charlie Craig bringing in that New Yorker magazine a couple of months ago, which had the AR cover.
Okay.
And we said, well, let's do this. The Avataria, I didn't want her talking to somebody like Jigsaw anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, so I don't know if we were going for technology, but we were going for something different. Because in the past, whenever we've chased technology, it hasn't worked. Like there was that period there at the beginning of season 6 when we were using Sherlock with the texts, and everybody hated it. And there was no reason to do it, and you'll notice it just stops. But it's like, but Avataria was basically, I said, well, look, it's just this creepy voice, and we've done this creepy voice, and we've done this hooded figure, but we have this massive tradition now of fluid identity and masks. Why don't we just take that to the next level, and just take it to the next layer of Snapchat?
And who else would Arya take orders from but herself?
Basically, yeah. And I remember, and Elijah wrote the episode she wrote 7/14, and in the writers' room we said, I think do you want to take this? Do you want to do this? And I think she thought it was as we like to say in the room, over egging the pudding, because she had the limousine scene and all that stuff, that she thought it was maybe too much. And I said, well, I'm only offering this once. And part of it too, it was a desire to give Lucy something different to do. She, I think you see that in the second half of the season, was that it was time for Lucy to start showing some bones we hadn't had a chance to exploit with her. We thought that Arya deserved some Aryas. So who else should she talk to? And it was delightful. I thought she did a tremendous job of just being nasty to herself.
Oh, she's fantastic. The only thing I would have added to that would be like pink streaks in Avataria's hair. Yeah,
I don't know if it would have read.
Yeah, good point.
I mean, you see the pictures basically, because we just did it on a green stage, and Hindi and her post-production team just, God, that thing is creepy looking. We were doing, whenever there was a test, we'd go in the room and say, well, that's creepy. That's creepier now. Oh, look, her eyes aren't even looking in the same direction. That's terrible.
Yeah, whatever they did to make it not match up entirely, it's just the right amount of weird.
It's the right amount of weird, and particularly when it tears. It's just
when part of the face is over here and the other part's over here, and it becomes like this Picasso monster. It's
just wrong.
It couldn't be more beautiful.
I'm very happy with it. The voice is right too, which is great. Because I didn't hear the final voice until the playback, so I was a little nervous about it.
I guess this is a good springboard. About how long before you started writing or producing did you know that one of the show's stars would be directing that episode, and what was that like for you, the writer? I'm
trying to remember. I mean, I don't think Troian was set when we started the season. She got the slot. I would be surprised if Lisa Cochran didn't make sure that she got a writer like me. just to make sure that she would have an EP and another and somebody there. The tricky parts were keeping her light in the episode before it, because she would be in prep.
Yeah. I think we noticed that a little during that episode.
Yeah, so she's a little light. She's heavier in 15 than she probably should be, but there's no way around that. I think it was. I was really glad when the schedule came out like that. I don't remember being consulted about it, but I'm pretty sure that Marlene and Lisa Cochran probably looked at it and said, "Well, this is probably the best way to go with this." And it was great. It was a wonderful experience. She was spectacular. And she did. I mean, I was. I just wanted to sit there and make sure she got what she wanted, and it's so hard to prioritize in the middle of a day that you just want to make sure that somebody doesn't get overwhelmed.
I mean, she did great for doing double duty. It's almost it probably would have been even better if she had like two of her.
I would love to know what kind of direction she gave herself in the Ren scene.
I don't, the weirdest thing in the world is to talk to Troian about motivation of Spencer in a scene. You just get lost in pronoun hell so fast. I should look at those dailies and see if she actually says cut for herself. Because sometimes you don't. Sometimes if you're directing yourself, you just let the first assistant director actually call action and cut. I don't. There are secrets still to be revealed there from 15.
Yes, we've had various theories discussed on the podcast for that.
Yes.
What did we got to talk about Without You.
Yes,
Harry Nilsson.
Oh, please, let's talk about that.
How much did you have to fight for that? Like, was that your idea, and did you have to fight for it?
It was my idea. I wanted it all along. It's in the script. It's probably the only time I actually ever indicated a song in a script like that. I'd been listening. Since a couple years back when this documentary came out about Harry Nilsson, I was listening to more and more of his music and understanding a little bit more of his story. And I've just been responding to the material a little bit more. And the last time I heard it, Scorsese used that song. It's in Casino. And it's just that I don't think people talk about him enough as a force in pop music in the 60s and 70s. And the lyric is great. It's this so friggin' desperate. And it just sits on top of this great arrangement. And there's such desperation in his voice that I said, this is really the song I want. And I said to Hindi, I said, this is going to be expensive. And she said, yes, it is. But again, it's like, what do you really, I mean, there's only one other needle drop in the show, which is the source music and the Two Crows. So I was hoping that would help me in the budget. And I learned not to ask. I said, can I get it? And she said, yes, you can. And it's going to cost. I said, yeah, but can I get it? And the only pushback I got, and it was very, very minor, was the network said, there are covers of this song that are more contemporary.
Yeah, I was wondering if they would suggest something like that. I assume probably cheaper too.
Well, the network doesn't care. They're not paying for it. The network cared because it was an older song. It's about, it's 40 something years old now. It's interesting. The note was sent in an email, and Oliver saw the same email I got, and Oliver came up to me and says, I really would have liked to have been in the room when you saw that. Because I didn't think you would respond very well to that. And I got it, it's like, what are you going to do? Fire me? I said when we got the notes on the cut, I said, you know what? This is a very iconic song. It's an iconic performance, and it's an iconic record, and I want to use it. And I don't want to use the cover version. I want to use this one. and then that was it. We got to use it. And what I like about it is that I like everything about it. I like the fact that I got a Harry Nilsson song on the show, but I'm not a big fan of songs. I tend to not like them. I think they get in the way of scenes. Whenever we do things like that, I'm always asking, do we have an instrumental version of this we can use? But actually, you might know this more than I would. I don't think there's a song that's used quite that way on the series, because what I didn't want it to be linoleum. I wanted it to actually take over the storytelling at that point. And it's interesting. A lot of people responded very positively to it. I had people coming out to me when it was in script saying, "Are you going to use this? Is this the song you're going to use?" I said, "Yeah, yes, it is."
Yeah, I can only think of a few other times where a song kind of directly commented. Paparazzi, when Allie meets Ezra, maybe sticks out in my mind.
But it's really weird. It's like in just about every instance I can think about, the music and the songs in particular, not Mike Subi's score, but the songs, they're kind of reinforcing material. But I wanted, it's very, and Bob understood this when he cut it together, although we had to re-edit the song a little bit because we had to move a verse around. It's like I wanted it in the clear. I wanted this is now the story. This song is now the story. I wanted it to be the story. My first impulse is I wanted it to be it's not so much AD's voice. I wanted it to be the voice of the audience. I wanted it to be the voice of the fans.
Interesting.
But because the lyric is so specific about, when I had you and then I let you go. That's AD.
Yeah, I did see this is kind of funny. I don't know if you knew this. You knocked off the YouTube version of that song. Like it was up and it had like 16 million views, and I guess it got too many hits because it got the copyright takedown after the episode.
I'm so proud. I know you can. I know that. Yeah, I think, but you can buy it from iTunes, which is interesting. But I think it's a Warner Brothers. Oh, I was almost going to put that up. Because I wanted people to hear the whole song. But good.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you got the Harry Nilsson one and not that it's bad, but the Badfinger version or what have you. But so this is probably the most expensive song on PLL ever then?
I don't know.
I would guess Paparazzi or the Lana Del Rey one, or maybe the one that they dance to.
Well, there's also the theme song, but that's a cumulative cost.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's like a Diana Ross at one point. I don't know how pricey that is.
Dionne Warwick.
There's a Dionne Warwick. There's also Diana Ross.
There's a Bette Midler in there.
Yeah. There's Patsy Cline, of course.
Lots of Patsy Cline.
I don't know how much that. Yeah, a couple of those. It could very well have been, but I have to say, my stock line, as I said, Hindi. She took time out of putting out. She stopped putting in dog barks and train whistles. And got me my Harry Nilsson song. And it's unexpected. Yeah, it's an older song, and I don't know, maybe it's I wrote a feature script a couple of years ago, and the last images go with a Harry Nilsson song. So I guess Harry's kind of been on my mind. It's a sad story too.
It does seem like the kind of song you might tune in on the radio as you're driving out of town.
With your action figures on the seat next to you.
With your expensive action figures on the seat next to you. But it's like, I don't know. As I said, I've had 9 months to second guess absolutely everything in the episode. But not the song.
Well, let me throw something out that I'm curious if you have second guesses on. The puzzle pieces.
Yep. What aspect of them, other than the fact that we had to do 2 at the time?
It seemed like in the first 3 to 4 episodes of this season, they were very present, and then they went away for like 4 episodes, and then they came back.
I think the game itself. Well, there's first of all, God bless Chris Vail for building that thing. The game, I think our original concept was a piece per episode. And we tried to do that, and something happened. happened. And I don't remember what. I don't remember why I ended up with 2. I wished that wasn't the case, because having to made it look like we were running out of time, which of course we were. I don't remember why that. Hanna didn't get a piece. Somebody missed a turn. You thought Lucy missed a turn. There should have only been one piece. That's unfortunate. I don't know what happened there, but if there had been one other piece used somewhere else, then I would have only had to worry about that final piece.
And I assume the plan the whole time was for it to assemble into this weird picture of a face with a spider web on it.
Yeah, although I think we always thought that the image itself would contain a code.
A code.
Well, I mean, like, you could. I don't know if it does get scanned.
Yeah. With their little laser thing.
With the little laser thing, which probably cost more than the Harry Nilsson song. but yes, we talked about eyes. We talked about it being a map. I think there was a period there we were trying to have. It was such a complicated. And again, it was being done on the fly between half seasons. Actually, no. Yes, it was being done because, 6, it just shows up in 7-11. But we were thinking about it all through the first half of 7, because this is something that we wanted to do. We wanted to build this kind of clock into the second half of the season. It's a little wonky, but it's so neat. Hopefully people still like it.
I liked it. I like the structure that it kind of theoretically provided. Yeah.
It amused me that, and I don't think we showed it to him, but it amused me that Chris ended up with something that kind of looked like the maps you guys drew. I took a certain satisfaction in that.
Us too.
Yeah, good. As well you should. That's immortality, my darlings. I know we worked, and I mean, I had it. Alison and I kind of had it first in 6-11, and that game could get pretty contentious in the writers' room. It's Brian Holman can get along with anyone about anything, but he could not understand how the hell there could be a letter in there. When was the letter in this? Well, the letter's always been in there. What do you mean the letter's always been in there? It's always been in there. I don't know.
There's also knives in there.
Well, the knife comes out of the mail slot.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The thing that was never shown, and I'm sure he still got it. But on the wall in Mona's apartment, when she had the game there, and nobody came around to that side of the room. I tried to in mine, but I just couldn't. Chrisfield had done this incredibly sophisticated circuitry diagram of what Mona felt was in there.
Oh yeah.
It was much better than just the sketchy things she did in 7-15. I wish I could have seen it. It was just friggin'. It was, as Mona would say, beautiful.
I feel like if you can get behind Mission Impossible masks, a letter that's just been waiting in there the whole time, that's not too hard to rationalize.
In general, this game is the perfect metaphor for what you guys do in the show, because it's a game, but also the eyes. While I was definitely like confused at first once the pieces come together. Like you said, it's the town watching them right in the center. Like whatever other larger meanings the image has. I love that it's 2 eyes representing this town. And I love that you had, like, from 7-11 that you and Alison wrote, like, it says Secret Passageway on that game.
It says Secret Passageway right there.
And I don't know how, like, especially Spencer, wasn't just like, can we circle back to this, guys?
I think they were all just afraid of the damn thing. They really are afraid. They're afraid of it. They don't like it. They don't want to play it. They're stuck with it. It's they're being outgunned by it. And also they've got real jeopardy in that they can, it's interesting. This is something that was very important to Oliver for a very long time, which was basically the girls had to be culpable for something. In this case, the death of a bad person. But it was a death that they were responsible for and could be held culpable for and would look bad for it. But no, you have to play the game.
And then You of course got the right Janel Parrish as the 13th Doctor when she finally meets the game.
Oh, I can't say enough about Janel Parrish. I can't say enough about her in my episode or in the series or just basically what she I just, I think I'd said this before. It's like, she's so good I didn't notice for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got a theory and I got nothing to back it up. But when Marlene told her that she would say in season 2, I think as a human being and an actor, she just said, there's no way I'm going to let any of this. I'm just going to claim this.
Mm.
And then you get the end of season 2, and then season 3 starts. And I had written for the character, but I had not written anything big for her. I had written her as little annoying, nerdy, little cute Mona.
Mm-hmm.
Hey big A, which was I can't remember if we knew it when she said that. But again, it's such a visceral memory for me, is when first Hanna visits her in Radley in season 3, and Janel's got this, you can't trust anybody in here. And then Caleb comes in and she's playing solitaire, and she freaks out and tells him he's a lousy kisser and tosses the table and starts screaming. And I wrote it, and I knew what I wanted to have happen, and Chad was directing it, and we rolled on it, and I think 2 cameras, maybe 3 cameras rolling on it. And she said, "You're a lousy kisser." She took the beat, and then she started screaming. And all due respect, Tyler's not acting in that scene. She went and she wailed and she just tore into it. And Chad said cut, and I think the crew applauded. But all I remember is I turned to Chad, and Chad looked at me and said, "Oh, we have not. What the hell was that?" And all of a sudden, it occurred to me that there was this massive amount of something quite remarkable going on. That's the same episode. I went up to her very late in the day and said, "Could you sing something for me in this?" And that's when I asked her to sing "In the Eye Abides the Heart," which had it's the song that Lucy and Tammin, that Jenna and Arya are rehearsing.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Do you think you could do this?" And I just gave it, and she had rehearsed it at all. I just gave it the lyric, and I played the song for her once. And she said, "Yeah, I can do that." And it's like, oh, Janel will just, and it's just basically the more she stretched, the more we wrote to stretch her.
Mm-hmm.
And the results were always amazing. Her level of commitment and when I saw her Jailhouse Rock number, I sent her a note saying, "So it's official. There's absolutely nothing you can't do." And then she plays all 3 Monas. She's playing. How many Monas is she playing in 719?
She's got at least 3. Yeah.
She's a minimum of 3. And I realized afterwards, again, it's like so much of the show is like, you could take credit for it, but none of it was conscious, that the primary relationship in the show is actually Mona to the other girls.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really, that's actually what the show means, which is why, the worst thing you can say to her is they'll never love you.
It's there in the pilot. Yeah.
It's right. It's there. It's don't you understand? I mean, everybody's a little hurt, but everybody's a little damaged, but Mona saves everybody. She actually did. I mean, like, there's a lot of stuff still to get cleaned up, but Charlotte would have been terrible if she'd survived. Right. It would have been ghastly. Not that things have been easygoing as it is. And Mona's been carrying that around. She was carrying it around.
I read a fascinating theory, and I know you can't really comment on this, but the theory goes that AD's game was not for the liars; it was to draw out Mona and to subvert Mona into her old ways.
At what point would that have happened?
I guess just in the flash forward, like the theory goes that AD knew Mona was the killer the whole time, and they needed Mona to get into old A Mona mode. I don't know if that's the case or not, but I did like that.
It's interesting. It begs the question of AD's original motive for the game, which is I want to find out who killed Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know. Don't know. I do know that basically it's like you were always the smart one, Mona. It wasn't not Spencer.
I can definitely remember watching early season 3. I mean, I think for everyone that was when they really noticed Mona. I mean, for me, that like I realized that was like the main thing. I was keep going on each episode up till 4 a.m. to like binge watch it. Like I got to see more Mona. Her character became so fast.
As I said, it is unfortunately it's 3. I only remember the only thing I remember writing for her before she went into the hospital was hey Big A.
Mm-hmm.
And other than that, I mean, and then I can't remember if I knew she was original A at that point or not. But there was the idea, you get it from, listen, I'm not taking anything away from any actor on the show. But you get a whiff of something if you're a writer that says, let me try this. And you get that. You get it from Troian. You get it from Janel. Lucy and Ashley are more technical in their own way. Although Ashley would slap you silly if you called her technical, because she wouldn't like that. And this is mostly the women, since we were concentrating on them as much as we were. The difference, Shay just has blossomed. Shay and Lindsey together. Mm-hmm. I mean, certainly it was like, oh, I can write stuff for these two that I couldn't write for another pair of actors, and it's gonna and it'll work, But it's not. It's like you do get spoiled. Everybody got spoiled on the show. The writers got spoiled on the show. The actors got spoiled on the show. The directors got spoiled on the show. I mean, I've said this a lot, just to the annoyance of everyone, but I used to go through the halls, particularly with the younger writers, and say, you have no idea how much you're going to hate your next job, because it's not going to be this one. But yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone could have predicted what that alchemy was going to be. And it is an alchemy. It began with Marlene, it began with the network, it began with an incredible casting process that ended up with these incredible women. And, a bunch of writers who just took it really seriously, but didn't take ourselves too seriously, I guess. I mean, it was always a pleasure to write the show. And there's you guys have talked about it. There are characters in terms of relationships in the show that you kind of wish they weren't doing what they were doing. Mm-hmm. But that the relationships have generated a certain gravitational pull which prevents you from writing them differently. Guess what? They're characters and they're making bad decisions.
Yeah.
And that kind of happens.
I mean, Arya and Ezra, for instance.
But I mean, like that. Well, finish your thought, and then we'll just dissect this.
I was just gonna say, it as much as like I didn't want to see Arya with Ezra, it never felt to me that Arya wouldn't want to be with him. She had, for better or worse, she was into him.
Yeah. But again, it's like, I mean, what I was going to say is that the Arya Ezra thing was always problematic for everybody on the show. I mean, I read the first. I think I've talked about this. Is the first time I read the script and I read the bathroom scene, and then I in a bar, and then I realized, oh God, this is a teacher. I don't know if I know how to write this. And it's one of the reasons why I said, I don't think I really need to meet on the show, because I just don't know how I would do this. It was always, that was out of the gate the most problematic thing in it.
Mhm.
And maybe, I mean, and then it became even more complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just became more complicated, and it's just like, gosh, and then it's interesting, the reaction to the characters. Like, and then Liam kind of became the Tanner of Ezria, where he came in and said, I see what this is, and you don't see what this is, but I'm telling you what this is.
That was going to be my question, was Bedlam when Liam sits down to give Ezra some notes.
Yes.
How much fun
Yes.
was that for you?
That was that. I don't know who had more fun with that, me or Ian. But Ian loved it. It was a great scene, and I remember talking to everybody else because I talked to Ian, and oh God, I forgot the actor's name who played Liam.
I only know him as Emma Watson's friend, which I probably should know his real name.
But I mean, it's like the whole year's like, there are no other scenes like that in the show. Well, actually, it's interesting. The only other scenes that are like that in the show are between Ian and Byron.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Roberto Aguirre.
Roberto, that's right. Like, so sorry. That's so awful of me. But he was, I mean, that was the great. Roberto could just, again, it's like why we put him in. I think it's why I put him behind Byron's desk. He said, basically, you have to understand, you don't understand. This is what's wrong with this, and I'm telling you what's wrong with this. And I'm giving you the chance to tell me that it's not true. I'm giving you a chance to lie. All you have to do is lie to me one more time.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't do it. But he's right. And I mean, he's angry, and he wants to call him on it. And but again, it's like Ian. I think Ian really loved the scene. I think they both did, because we just weren't doing that kind of stuff with guys on the show. I mean, Keegan pointed out that the only scene he has with Ian in the show is in the black and white episode.
Single scene, yeah. Interesting.
And it's like, well, what the hell is that? But you see, it's like, it's.
They are somewhat just accessories, though. The boyfriends are,
They are. I think that's one of the reasons. That's the primary reason why they fall out of 719, because it's really about the girls. I mean, they've stated their. I call them girls again. It's really about the women. They've stated their cases. They've done what they've done. They've made their statements. They're there for what I want them to be there for, and they all hear Mona's confession. Mona's aria.
You only need Caleb because he's the one who can do the hand stuff and the hacking.
That's really And again, it's like, but I wasn't going to pass up the opportunity to put Caleb across the table from Mona in the Two Crows and let them have their last scene together and talk about the pie. And
what was the direction there? Like, what did you tell Tyler to do? Because it's fantastic.
It's really interesting because it's one of those times when the specific memory I have of directing Tyler in that scene was I thought he was rushing when he tries the pie. I said, yeah, just try the pie, and then put the fork down and ask her who she's waiting for. And he did it like 2 times, and I went in and I said, really just really separate these things. Just like take the pie, just take your time. Don't rush. Slow down. And Tyler looked at me and said, "You don't understand. People are always telling me to hurry up." And to get on. And I said, "Not this one, not this episode, not this scene. Take your time.
Try the pie.
Try the pie. Clearly not like the pie." From the look on his face, and then talk to Mona and realize she's not doing well over there. Caleb never trusted Mona ever, and doesn't trust her now. I don't know how he feels about her now, but I just wanted to slow it down, and I wanted to. I said I wanted really deep colors. I wanted some colors I hadn't seen before from them as actors and also in the set design. And I just wanted to take my time with the scene. And I was, and the specific things I was asking for were the small physical things, like really seriously finish the bite of pie and then ask her, and making sure I got a separate piece of Mona wiping her fingers. as if her mistake was to touch the game.
Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah, I've always gotten the impression with Caleb and Mona that it's like he thinks he's in a different scene in a way. Like he thinks that this is kind of one sort of conversation, and Mona's always like just 3 levels above him with where she's operating.
I think you're right. If you look at them, beginning with the solitaire cards, yeah. But catatonic Mona in the Lost Woods, the only person she responds to is Caleb. She gives that little wave to Caleb.
Ah, that's true.
When he comes in, and I talked about it. And I said, because I said, no. When she sees Caleb, she waves at him. He's, she's sitting there. She's off somewhere. Mona may be gone forever, and says that may already have happened, and she's pretty far gone. But she recognizes Caleb and she waves at him, and so she's got a smile for him. What is that? But it's like Janel just sitting there on the sofa. That was a great day. It was a great day directing her and that stuff. And she was so pleased with the last line, which is waiting for, it was there all the time, waiting for Charlotte to come. And then the sun comes up and everything's okay. Why the sun waited till about 11 o'clock in the morning to come up, we don't know. But it did.
Came out all at once, yeah.
It was a very, very long night.
It's time for pie for all of us.
See, now that makes me wonder if maybe Caleb was the mysterious 4th member of the Mona, Jenna, and Sydney meeting in Miss Me Times 100.
And the blurred figure at the end of Surfing the Aftershocks. Will we ever discover who that is?
Oh God, I think I thought I knew for a while. But now I don't remember, so I don't even want to nominate anyone.
Okay.
Because it might sometimes I try to be scrupulous about these things, but sometimes it's hard to be scrupulous about this stuff. I hate doing stuff where I can't. I mean, I was always the one who said, well, just tell me what really happened. If you tell me what really happened, then I can lie about it all day long. But if I don't actually know what happened, then I'm in a bit of a bind.
You might step on a landmine accidentally.
Yeah, there's plenty of them floating around. That's for sure. It's like you get possessive about certain characters, and you don't. I don't think I'm talk that way. But we get possessive.
Was there ever anything, as long as this isn't going to spoil anything, was there ever any moment or plot line or something that you really wanted on the show but you just couldn't work in?
A couple of things, but they're very, very minor. Because we got to do almost everything. I mean, when I look at the checklist of stuff I got to do, beginning with the black and white episode, beginning with the Halloween train, and writing about Emily and Paige the way I was able to write about them. There was a moment, it actually got as far as script, where after the time jump, Emily was in the armed forces. She was in the Air Force Reserve. And I think she did that to raise money for her college and as an honor for her father, who had passed away at that point. And I actually wrote the scene. She was in the Air Force National Guard. She was not a pilot, but she had what they call, she was authorized to taxi aircraft. And instead of her making margaritas in a bar, you were going to see her powering down like a C-47,
like in a cockpit.
Yeah. I was gonna. I mean, it was like that was going to be. See, that was going to be the trend. It was an airplane to airplane transition. I think it was going to be. Because it would have gone
out one window and the other.
Yeah, it would have gone from Hanna in the jet to Emily parking and powering down an aircraft. And we talked about it, and it was just going to be a story dead end. We would never. It was not something that we were going to be able to explain unless that was like her last flight or something.
Yeah. How do you get her out of that?
Yeah. I know that we also talked for a little bit about whether or not she should have become a paramedic. I think it's like part of it's like poor Shay. She spent 7 years wearing flats, and there I was. I'm trying to say, well, let's put her in a uniform, but it would have been a fine uniform because I thought she wanted. I thought it would be an interesting thing to do for the character. That this was a woman whose family was about service, and I think it might have been interesting, but maybe it just wasn't our show.
Well, because no matter what, everyone had to come back to Rosewood, and their old
Yeah.
jobs quickly fell away anyway. Yeah.
They did because they never really well, that's what I liked about the time jump, is they all thought they got away, but none of them did. There was a scene that I had to cut from 611 where they were it ended up being the scene at the end of the first act when they go to school and they talk to Allie, and Allie wants them to do the testimony to help get Charlotte out. And originally the scene was going to be in the De Laurentiis house, and there was a scene of the other four women walking up to the house and talking about how basically said, "My God, I feel like I'm getting smaller. It's like I'm back in this town now, and I'm not even the same size I was. I'm back to the size how is that possible?" Because they had not finished with the town, and that's really what basically it was. They had not finished with the town, and they couldn't hear. I mean, it's a scene with Spencer, but Spencer couldn't hear what Mona says to her at the campaign rally, which is, "Do you still have bad dreams?" "I do." Are you going to tell me and Spencer does not answer the question. Aria does. She says, "Yes, I do." She says it in front of the judge. Mona's the one who has to come and say, I think she says, like, a lot of prescriptions and 6 therapists, but I still have bad dreams. What are you doing here? How are you doing?
I know you guys had that scene. It was like a bonus scene where it was like Mona meeting Allie kind of somewhere within the flash forward. Was that originally going to be like a flashback, or
I think is that in a special?
It was in the special, I think. Yeah.
No, I think that was done specifically for the special.
Okay.
And the one with Dr. Sullivan, I think, is meeting with Jason and Alison. Isn't there one in that same special?
I don't remember. I know that I kind of did not. I didn't know how canon those scenes were going to be.
Yeah.
So I kind of I got to a point, like, basically, like, if it's like, it's the Cuban Missile Crisis. Respond to the telegram you like. So I started to kind of say, well, I don't know that. If I don't know that, I don't have to worry about that.
How do you feel about Barry Maple helping Charlotte escape in 424 in that flashback?
I didn't like it until I backed into this theory of corruption.
Oh, okay.
And then everything flippin' made sense. I love Detective Barry. That's one of the great unintended consequences of the show, was basically, Barry got the name Barry because he's the cop who pulls over Ashley Marin when she's got the $40,000 in the car, which is basically psycho. That's why it's $40,000. But what I said was basically, I just wanted to make sure she called the officer by name because I wanted people to know that she knew all the cops. But that's how the character got named, instead of being second cop. And he just stayed with it, bringing bad news every year.
Yeah, I feel like the only thing I would have ever changed about Barry over the course of the show is just like more stubble, like take him a little more jaded, because he seems like he's really not happy, or really like a little more gruff when he's like.
We thought he was
interrogating Spencer.
He might actually turn into the police chief at some point. I don't know. I have no way of knowing. That's And again, how does Toby get to be a cop that fast?
Maybe Barry was kind of bucking the system until he finally got in line with the corruption and whatnot, and then he rose up the ranks.
There you go. There are these towns that that's the thing. There was something I wanted to do that I didn't get a chance to do, and maybe it was too meta, and I can't remember I actually ever said it out loud to anyone at any point. But it's something that occurred to me when I wrote the Halloween Train, is that I wanted to do an episode that would be introduced by a Rod Serling impersonator. And not Twilight Zone, but Night Gallery. And I actually played around with it, was that it was that I said that you'd actually get this guy in a suit, and there are a couple of actors who can do it, and just basically have him introduce the show and just put it in this different context. And I don't know, it was a goofy idea.
I mean, I think you cheat that by putting it on a TV that you then pull out of.
Well, God knows we've done that.
Yeah.
But,
or it's Arya's funny uncle Rob Lowe.
oh, that's who works for cash.
Because I mean, you guys are definitely talking about mental health issues as far back as when Byron has this throwaway line about how he's really concerned about Mike, and his brother was
Scott.
Scott, yeah.
It's interesting. It's like, I mean, I think one of the people went after us for some gender insensitivity, but I think actually one of the things that we didn't do properly was deal with sobriety and mental health. These things. But again, it was a terrible hospital. Really, who had what on Dr. Sullivan?
Yeah, Mona had like something about her son.
Yeah,
I guess
there's something. I mean, that plant was ugly, but there was something more going on in that scene. That did we actually throw that plant away in the scene?
Oh, I can't remember. Yeah, when she gives the new plant.
It's the episode I wrote that. I think I wrote that episode with Elijah. And yeah, she gets an organ. Here you go.
It's just like, it's one of those things where it's like the joke has almost been accepted in memory as canon with like, here's a plant, put it by wherever you talk on the phone or whatever.
Yeah. Although plants are nice too. Ren has a nice plant. That's one of the first things I wrote I was very happy about was Ren coming in with a plant.
Mm-hmm. Well, one does not come unfortified.
One does not come unfortified to the House of Hastings. Which I actually like to think of as, I said, you know what? I don't think there's anybody on the staff who could have written that line. I'm very pleased with that.
Which I love it that you call back at the game. It's the House of Hastings there.
It is the House of Hastings. I was a little surprised when I saw that. Because that would, wait a minute, who heard that?
Yeah.
The other one is Summon Your Father, which is also, I think people should say more often. I think Ian could have said that before Mike punched him in the face with Summon Your Father. I'm not summoning anyone.
Summon his fist, yeah.
Huh. I like that. Oh God, I like that scene too. When Arya and Ezra are standing there, like it's going to be okay.
Oh, that scene's just painful. Yeah.
I think half of us, you know what kind of PLL fan you are, depending on how much you like that scene.
Really? Who doesn't like? You're supposed to squirm. It's supposed to be awful. It's the stupidest thing they could have possibly done.
Ezra's so weaselly too. He's like, I wanted to clarify something. Like, it's just a little minor clarification.
Just all he does is just opens trenches to fall into.
Dipping our toe into the internet, I quickly discovered there are some Ezrians out there who really thought that scene would have a happy ending.
Really? They thought there was only...
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're mystified with the fact that Ezra would have to explain himself to people. Especially, I wanted to ask you about, speaking of Ezra, so we talked a little bit about Bedlam, we talked a little bit about Liam. Was that kind of the idea in the writer's room at the start of like having Ezra explain himself or apologize in any way at the end of the show as we...
Well, don't you have to eventually own your behavior?
Oh, I would agree, but
unless of course you've got a lot of lawyers. but it's like, you've got to say something. It's the biggest wrong thing there is in the show.
Mm-hmm.
And he tried. I think and there, Ezra did try to go away.
Mm-hmm.
In season 1. Yeah. Back at, oh my God, as far back as what was that, Homecoming, I think.
Then I think he walks back in and catches Arya playing like guitar with Noel Khan.
Yeah, but that's like a little later.
Okay, yeah. Oh yeah, the haircut, Yeah.
Yeah.
I got this haircut for you.
I think so. I think it's like, it's not, but I think it's also, it's like characters like Liam and other people stepping forward and saying, this is your behavior. I mean, in a weird way, Liam, and particularly in the next couple of episodes, it's like even Paige has to come forward and saying, you're doing this, and you have to understand that we all have to know why you're doing this. Let's be honest about this.
Mhm.
I mean, she can't possibly think the three of them could be together in some kind of context.
Well,
maybe on another network, but
we have to ask, I mean, what was that like for you, having so much ownership of that relationship? Being, I mean, I'm assuming you if you didn't get that episode where she leaves, you would have fought for it, but
I mean, again, it's like one of those things where like it was going to be there. We were going to do it. I don't remember having to say I wanted it. I think it was kind of I mean, my affection for the characters became an unfortunate running joke in the writers' room,
mm-hmm.
where I was desperately trying to kind of like make the thing work.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the deal with that. It was clear at some point that this was where these relationships were going to go. People were going to end up with who they were going to end up with.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought when Paige left at the airport,
mm-hmm.
that might very well be the last time anyone would ever see the character.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and they're magnificent in the scene. Right down to Shay knowing how, what do you do? How did you get in here? I bought a $66 plane ticket to Atlantic City just to get through security. And it's a great scene, the two of them being torn apart. And I thought that was it, to the point where the first draft of 611, after the Arya's had her breakdown on the stand, and Spencer and Emily are in the Radley bar waiting for
mm-hmm.
Hanna.
Yeah.
And Emily says, "It's a little strange being here." And she says, "Yeah, it is." There are pages, the first draft pages. Spencer says to Emily, do you talk much to Paige? And Emily says, "This is really, I don't know what it means that I remember this dialogue because it was never performed." And Emily says, "No, I haven't, not much since the wedding."
Mm-hmm.
And Spencer was, "How was that?" And then Emily describes going to Paige's wedding in Carmel and seeing two brides coming out of the mist and the fog. And she's saying it was very beautiful, and I cried a lot. And she said, "I'm not quite sure what I was crying about, but I cried at the wedding." And that was because I wanted Paige to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted them, maybe they still talk to each other in terms of that. And it was decided unilaterally that actually the speech was off topic and that they should be talking about something else. And they end up talking about Sarah Harvey and what would have happened if Sarah Harvey had walked in. But I thought, and then, I did not, and then the backstory evolved about them knowing spending time together in California and having a relationship in California, and it ending. But I was prepared for not to get that shot,
mm-hmm.
just to have that character back. And then rather late in the day, because I was such a proponent of the relationship, it got to a point where I really couldn't bring it up in the room.
Mm-hmm. You had to wait for somebody else to.
Yeah, exactly. Because it was like, so I remember the first time it came up, I kept my trap shut. But I can't remember if it came from Marlene's end of the table or somewhere else. It must have been from Marlene. Where it's kind of like, what were we, And actually, the original drive was, what would we have to do to be able to rebitchy-fy Allie a little bit?
Oh, interesting.
Which is why Paige's return to school, which is why the great Kathy Ladman as Mrs. Horowitz, who's never seen a problem she couldn't avoid. Even the school district is corrupt.
She's like, "I'm about to retire. I'm
about to retire. There's no problem. I just want to get out of here." I think she had a lot of school spirit. So I was really surprised when I had when they brought her back, and I was really pleased to I love Lindsey as an actor, and the power when the two of them had their scenes together was always something that was tremendously, really, it's difficult to describe what it was like to direct them in the black and white show.
Mm-hmm.
They so understood what was going on. And when we did the scene in the bedroom, it was one of my stock sentences, like basically as I went up to them in hair and makeup and I said, listen, I got this idea. Can I just talk to you about this? And I said, let me just show you what I'm thinking about if I can. And which is why basically one of the best directions I ever gave and to anyone in my entire life was to tell Shay to put her fingers underneath Lindsey's bra strap when they're on the bed together, because it was like trying to find these safe 40s images to be transposed into a lesbian embrace. But I could have directed two of them in that scene all fucking day long.
Oh, so you're still fighting like censorship today with their relationship in that scene in particular?
It's like, oh, I think there's two things that are different in that scene in the broadcast version than my director's cut. And mostly, and again, it's Bob editing again. We shortened it by about 9 seconds of them on the bed, and chose a couple of different takes. I have to say, I was fighting, but I was not fighting. It was so important that the scene be in there, as much of it as possible, that I was very cautious about pushing things too hard. Originally, the only other thing that's a big difference, and it had an impact on the transitions, is that they were supposed to start kissing at the window, pull back across the bed, and then it was supposed to go to Hanna, and then it was supposed to go to Spencer. It was Spencer talking to Toby, and Spencer and Toby had their big scene, and Toby quotes, "Down these mean streets, a girl must go who is not herself mean." And Spencer stood up and walks into the embrace with Toby. And what happens then is that I panned off, again, unmotivated camera move, I panned off of Spencer and Toby to their shadows on the wall and lap dissolved to Shay's and Lindsey's shadows on the wall, and then found them on the bed. The network wanted the love scene to be a continuous scene. And I did not want to fight about that. I didn't want to give them a reason not to do the scene.
Yeah,
so
choose your battles a little.
Yeah. So there's this. So I had to lose this transition, which was a design transition. But and the only other thing is literally it's about 9 seconds. Actually feels a little long now. I know we swapped some takes, and they were. I don't think I would have gotten a different kind of note if it was a mixed sex couple. I think they would have said the same thing to me.
Okay.
So I can't, as it is, it's an 8:00 show, and we did that scene, and I'm nuts about it. I'm nuts about that stuff. The two of them at that window is just holy cats. I'm not that good. They must be really good. But yeah, a huge, tremendous investment in every scene those girls had together. Girls, women. For the first one, for the first kiss, don't tell. To the one where she comes in and she's had the date with Guy and it wasn't real. It was a great date till I kissed her. And Emily saying, I didn't come out of the closet, I fell out of the closet. And then they walk over on the window seat. The window seat that, Paige said, I always wanted one of those. They sit on the window seat. And I wrote this speech for Emily saying, says, when I was trying to talk myself into liking guys, I would look for guys like you. And she said, what does that mean? And I handed the script in, and Marlene read it, and she came in the room and she looked at me and she said, you are such a lesbian. I said, thank you. That they're parting. I mean, the scene by the pool, Don't Look Away, the two of them, on the train together. I mean, the fact that I got to do another couple of scenes with them and to write, and that, to the perpetual annoyance. Oh God, this is a bad way to put it. But I've already put this, in that, when Paige leaves, she has to be the one who authorizes. She tells Allie what she has to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a tremendously generous thing for her to do. And I think Emily's making a mistake. I hope things work out. I think they'll work out for Paige. But yeah, how's that for these are fictional people.
Yeah. Well, I love for Paige's happy ending that she is, her last scene is with Alison, and that she does make this choice to leave.
She leaves, and I did not have to explain to Lindsey what that last line was. It's like, literally, it's like, you are authorizing this.
Mm-hmm.
You are, and it's like, she's the most grown-up person on this triangle, and she has this, and again, it's just a simple scene, but it's great, and it's like, it's one of those places too where Troian said that, I don't know if she meant it in the context of this particular scene, but Troian did say things, and the other actors said things as well, that because Troian had worked with them so closely as actors, she was able to speak to them about things on a level that other directors couldn't have done.
Mm-hmm.
And and it's just like, there's Paige, there's the frightened, my God, there's that frightened girl with the bangs, drowning, trying to push people down in the water because she's so attracted to them. And then she sits there with all this incredible wisdom and all this pain,
mm-hmm.
and saying, well, if this is how this is going to go, but you have to say you love her.
Mm-hmm. And
she doesn't, but she gets the answer. I'm very pleased with it. I don't know how people think about it. I really don't. I mean, I know a lot. It got to a point where I just stopped going into the social media, because particularly the Paige stuff
mm-hmm.
seemed really weird and disproportionate and cruel and hurtful. I'm not, I can't get into who's right or who's wrong, or who's mean and who's not mean. But I, there's this gravity issue where that affected characters' behavior. It's interesting. When Shay and Sasha are on the couch just before they get gassed in 719, and it's really, this is also proves that the show ended just in time. And Shay said, and Emily says, I didn't come all this way, not to have you. And it wasn't until after I shot the thing I said, oh, wait a minute, this is almost exactly what Hanna says to Caleb in the cabin.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, oh God, I think it's time to go. Mm-hmm. It was bad enough when it was all the pinata jokes. Mm-hmm. But she said, I'm not going to let anything happen to you. And I forget the context of it, but Shay looked at me and she said, even though she knows she can't do that, even though she knows she can't guarantee that. And I said, yeah, because I think she's saying it out loud because maybe she wants it to be real. Mm-hmm. But I thought it was interesting that Shay said that Shay didn't think that Emily had the power to protect her and protect them.
Interesting. All right. Well, I think as we kind of close out here, we had a few final questions. One of them was just, what was the thing that you wanted to accomplish, or kind of your big priority thing you didn't want to leave behind as far as PLL's legacy goes?
I don't really know if when we went into it, that kind of thinking was going on. And when you look at the kind of gifts that were there, that were put in front of me to do the black and white show, to write about these characters, the way I was able to write about them, to give these scenes. I look back at just individual scenes. I look back at this, at Hanna and her mother in that empty apartment. But the 6, Songs of Innocence and Songs of Experience, mm-hmm. those 2 episodes together, I can't really identify something that got left out per se. And I really don't know what that legacy is, because I think I don't know. Is the show going to stay in people's heads or not? Does it matter? Don't know. as I say, in a you know, I'm hoping that somewhere down the lines you guys put your thoughts together. Why this show? What's the show? What you know? We've talked about this a little bit in the past. Is particularly with Norman, is that we did this a certain way, and we weren't sure if anyone would notice that it's the way we were doing it. But oh, wait a minute, somebody did notice. Which has been, it's a strange thing. It's strange. Do you hear me? It's strange. Well, where's a Hanna? I don't want to get too mushy, but again, it's like, but I get, that gets to be her last line, and I get right. Let's not get mushy. And then Harry Nilsson starts to sing.
Well, and speaking of which, so that's the legacy of PLL, but how does this album fit into the, the musical career of Joseph Dougherty?
I don't, in what sense?
Well, I mean, I'm just curious, like you've talked in the past about how music has affected your writing, or sometimes you write like it's music. I think you definitely had an interesting musical influence to the show without you to Bye Bye Blackbird.
Bye Bye Blackbird, which actually, I came very close to not calling it Farewell, My Lovely. There was like couple other lines I thought I could get out of Bye Bye Blackbird, which I wish I had used. So there's that. I wanted to use the Teddy Bear's Picnic. I think basically everybody else was doing contemporary music, so I just wanted to kind of like throw these curveballs in, like In the Eye Abides the Heart, just because I think I just wanted people to listen a little closer. That's why the Bach is in there, and the Bach gets repeated. That's why that's why Merry Widow Waltz is in there. I wished I'd gotten Merry Widow Waltz one more time in there. You only hear it twice, but it's pretty telling when you do.
The Goldberg Variations.
There are 32 of them. When I wrote one script, it's Arya sitting at the piano and playing a Goldberg variation, and Troian came up to me and started hitting me with a chair. I said, "It's fine. It's simple. Here, let me just play it for you. It's just you don't have to pay a couple of bars of it. It's your own damn fault for being good." I don't know. It's like they're there and they're reinforcing. Structurally, I get concerned when people get all Robert McKee and talk about the 3-act structure and all that kind of stuff. When I actually think it's a little bit more liberating as a writer to think about it as music, and to think about it as either a serenade, which which was supposed to be Ezra's book, not ostinato. I don't know why they wouldn't let me call it saraband. They just said I couldn't. I've never, ever since the WB days, I've been skeptical of songs, so I try to keep them out. And I'm the other way. Somebody said the other way you can always pick my scripts out is because they have no contemporary references.
I'd say that's a lot of PL though in general.
I know, but every time it gets in there, I say, you're not going to like this in a couple of years. No one's going to know what you're talking about. It's like slang, which is basically you're better off making it up than trying to copy it.
Like squeezing his grapefruit.
Squeezing his grapefruit?
That's an old one. That's Hanna talking about Wilden to Ashley.
Every time you baby squirrel Ezra, you take away his nuts.
Yeah. Well, as long as there's food stuffs involved with it, which are very good in terms of that. Nobody thought it would last as long as it would. We all got comfortable. We all liked each other for a very long time. Not that we stopped liking each other, but it was like amazing. Trust me, Charlie Craig came back for that last season, and he looked around the room and could not believe how many people were still there. We just got it down, and to the point where it's hard to know what's a reference and what's a deliberate reference and what's a Zen reference. Yes, there's the bell tower, and certainly when I put flowers in Charlotte's hand on the ground, I was thinking about Madeline's flowers in Vertigo. But I think we end up using the flowers in a different way, but it's it makes us look like you know what you're doing. It's always a good thing to do.
All right. Well, what's next for Joseph Dougherty now that PLL's over?
Oh, Lord. I've been worried about that for a while. It's interesting. I've tried 7 years and counting collaborations, 34 scripts. I came out of this last. We finished shooting in October, and we finished post in December. I came out of the show with so much kind of muscle memory that I just kind of put my head down and I started writing. And I finished another play, and I finished another feature script that I want to take out, which we haven't taken it out yet, but we will soon. And then I knew I didn't want to go back on another show. I certainly didn't want to staff because I didn't want that kind of. I'd just done it for 7 years, and just to be cranky, I knew I was not going to be able to repeat that experience, so that I better. So I just sat down and I've been thinking about a different shape for television. I'm really intrigued by this concept of the short season. Where, I mean, the stock line basically, the nature of television has changed since we started talking. But I wrote what I thought was going to be a web series, and then I showed it to. They're called My Team. We all wear uniforms, talk about my career. And they said, well, this is all very well and good, but could you expand it? And I said, expand it how? And I said, is there an 8-episode season? And I've now developed, we haven't taken them out, but I've been working on these 2 8-episode season shows that would be close-ended, but would also be franchises. But with 8 episodes, I could write the bulk of them. And that, that's like the old BBC model, where you basically just went away and you wrote everything. So I'm intrigued about that. I have no idea what reaction is going to be when when we go out with them, but it's interesting. I mean, I'm literally going to have like about a couple of episodes of each one written. So it's not like I don't want to pitch it. I just say, well, here, just take a look at this and see if you want me to tell you the rest of the story. I'd love to, but I'd also love to kind of bucket list is to make an independent feature, to write and direct that.
So 6 months, 1 feature script, 1 play, and 2 TV shows.
Yeah, not bad.
Not bad at all.
Yeah, and now I'm thinking I may take a nap or something. And no, actually, I'm just now saying I'm getting a little tired. So let me finish this, and then maybe I'll take a little break. But at the same time, there's still a lot of stuff to write. And even though we've been out of production so long, the past 2 weeks have really been the end of the show in many ways, because it's the public, it's our public ending, and I really it's a little spooky, and we'll see if we go gentle tonight if people remember us kindly or not. I don't know, because I don't, I know nobody knows, I guess, but we can hope for the best. I think we shall see, apparently. But please remember, the entire show is available on disc, July 27th, I think.
That's fast.
Yeah, and what I'm lovingly referring to now as the Brick, which is the 160 episode, 36 disc full series package.
Oh, does that exist?
That is an existing thing. It will, I think the street date is the same as season 7.
So how long before we get the special deluxe edition of that's shaped like Liar's Lament?
Oh my God, they bungled that. They really should.
Like if you do the right task, it'll spit out the next disc for you to binge.
Well, I've seen, the box set looks a little bit like that goddamn Hellraiser thing. So it's probably dangerous in that respect. I love the knife coming out and scaring even Mona. God, I love Mona.
And then she's thrilled by it.
And she is. She's just, this is a little S&M action there for her. But...
I'm looking at the cover art for the complete series right now. The board is on it. Liar's Lament.
The board is on it. I like that the board is on it. It's a pretty good metaphor for the show, actually. We were always playing this game with you, and the passageway was always under there. It still had lights in it.
All right. Well, I feel like we learned a lot. I don't think we spoiled anything. There's still lots
I
of
hope not.
anticipation
I don't think
for the
so.
finale. We have our various theories and whatnot, but yeah, thank you for joining us. I feel
Yes.
like we learned a lot about kind of
Thank you so
the
much.
background of the show.
I want to thank you for giving me the chance to talk about it some more.
All right.
Because I will now refuse to answer any questions and then refer all comments to my attorneys at this point. But
Bruce the Shark.
listen, again, I said this before. It's like I want to thank you guys for taking this seriously, and but not too seriously.
All right. Well, yeah, we can't wait to see the finale in just a couple days away now.
It is Marlene to the max.
Oh, good.
I'll tell you that.
All right. Well, can't wait.
Great. Well, have a great time. Have a great rest of the weekend.
Thanks, you too. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.